Okay, people, episode 6 of the Jimmy Randazzo Show. We have a very, very special guest on today. One of the biggest Giants fans in Giants universe. You can find him on YouTube with over 45,000 subscribers. The Entertainah, Chris. How are you doing, man?
Man, it's a pleasure to come on. Excited to talk Giants football, man. I know you asked me on Twitter, and always open to talking to anybody. So, I mean, how am I? I feel like I probably feel like every Giants fan in the world right now, like over the moon and stars. I feel like we knocked the draft out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get to that in actually like 2 minutes. First thing I have to ask you, though, I was looking back at your YouTube content, and this is just a brand new show, trying it on YouTube. I went back, scrolling back. You have hundreds and hundreds of videos, YouTube, going back to like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
How long have you been on YouTube?
I started on YouTube in right after the 2018 draft. So the Saquon Barkley draft. It was like 2 or 3 months after that. So yeah, it's been that long. It's been like 5 years. Been a blast. Just started it for fun. Had no idea what I was doing. Had recently broken up with a girlfriend at the time and was looking to get my mind off of her. My friend said you should start making video content on YouTube because you're funny, you're engaging. Because we used to send we were in like sports text. I'm sure you're in those too with your friends, where we're in like a group text and it was around the NFL draft. And I was doing like impersonations of like, I don't know, Pat Shermer. I don't even remember. And they're like, oh, you're pretty funny. You're good on camera. It's a hobby. Get your mind off your ex-girlfriend. You start a YouTube channel. And I just did it for fun, and it kind of just grew. And to be honest with you, when I first started on YouTube, because I'm older, I'm 37. I didn't think about it. I didn't even know that people went to outside platforms other than like ESPN, Fox Sports. I was doing it more just as a joke. And then I quickly realized people actually like really value my opinion. And and then I started to take it a lot more seriously from there.
Yeah, I mean, your energy is contagious, it's electric. I was just watching your like reactions to the draft picks. Big weekend to be a Giants fan. I mean, it's a big year to be a Giants fan. Shane comes in, Dable comes in, and they had a hell of a draft. But I want to start here because not only are you entertaining and you bring the energy, but at 7:23, the day of the draft, an hour before the draft, you tweet, Deonte Banks is my final answer. And then, of course, Giants trade up to 24, and Deonte Banks is on the Giants. What did you love about him? Crab geeks and football and all. What did you like about the kid, and what was your intuition to think that they had to get him at 24?
Yeah, I was like 100% sure if he was there, we were going to take him. My only question was he going to be there? But I looked at the Giants team and I said to myself, yeah, we have other needs. You need a wide receiver, center. But as we saw as the draft progressed, there was value to be had at both of those positions. I thought the corner position, well, it was a deep cornerback draft class. I felt it was extremely top heavy in the sense that I felt like there were 3, 4, maybe 5 corners that could truly be like a CB1. And that was a big need for the New York Giants, especially in a Wink Martindale defense. So I said to myself, if this guy's on the board, he fits our defense perfectly. And I had a feeling that the Giants were going to do exactly what they did in terms of go for high upside prospects, because you can make an argument he has as high as an upside as any corner in this draft. He comes from not a smaller school, but not like a power football school. He goes to Maryland, so maybe he's not as well known as a guy that may go to Alabama, but his physical attributes are off the charts. He has everything you could possibly want. He's over 6 feet tall. The dude ran a 4.35 at the combine, and I don't remember all the specifications, but his combine performance was so great. I think it was the first time in 37 years a cornerback had as impressive as a combine as he had. And I knew, obviously, the top 2 corners, Gonzalez, Witherspoon, weren't going to be there. So I thought he was the guy we were going to be looking for. And I always said leading up into the draft, not that you have this as proof on Twitter, that I thought we were going to trade up. Now, where I thought we were going to trade up was to 19, not to 24, because I thought we'd try to jump all those teams. But yeah, he was the guy I wanted probably 2-3 weeks leading into the draft. After I looked into him and how he really made sense for this football team, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do that much preparation this year. Last year, there was probably 40 to 50 hours of turning the page, putting on draft people, liking this guy, liking that guy, because the Giants were so high in the draft. This year, I was a little bit back on it, so I didn't really know the guy. I looked at his tape; he looks phenomenal. Looked at the highlights; looks like a really good player. And you're right; they absolutely needed somebody in the secondary. Well, Wink Martindale was hugging everyone afterwards, so
That was the best.
He loved the pick, and that's all that really matters. And like when you go from Gettleman to Shane, and the trust that I have in Shane now, I don't even have to feel like I need to be an analyst as much when it comes to this stuff, because I'm like, well, Joe Shane knows better than me. Like last year, before he took Evan Neal and before we got Thibodeau and started winning, and him and Dable are like this. I was a little worried, and I wanted to get my research in, but I'm just like, you know what? Joe Shane seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't say that enough. I mean, were there a couple of things that Gettleman did well? Sure. Like there's core pieces from this team that he drafted, whether it be Andrew Thomas, Saquon, Daniel Jones. We go down the list. But overall, the guy was a mess. His free agent acquisitions were a mess. The coaches that he hired were a mess. There was no cohesion. That's the one thing that you really notice with this pairing now with Shane and obviously Dable. And it's great that they're on the same timeline. It's great that they came in together. It's great that they had a prior relationship before they got here. You could see that these guys actually love working with one another. When you go back and you think about Gettleman and Shermer or Gettleman and Judge, those guys never even had press conferences together. These guys like love working with one another. You see them working together at the drafts. It just feels like we're a much more stable franchise. And yeah, you hit that on the head. Like I trust Joe Shane. Like I'm not, I know he's going to make mistakes just like any other great GM. But overall, I trust his ideals and I trust what he plans to do for this New York Giants football team. He's done a fantastic job so far.
Yeah, and he seems to trust you because you tweet next. You tweet.
Yeah.
What did you tweet? You tweeted, JMS is my final answer for the second round. And of course, John Michael Schmitz Jr.
Yeah.
Out of Minnesota, lineman, hog molly, 300-pound center, is the guy with the second round pick. And I saw your reaction. You got to be thinking to yourself, not only did we get the pick that I wanted, I might be a genius. What were you thinking?
I don't know about all that. I'm just a fan. I love my team. But to me, it's just thinking about it logically, thinking about the needs, thinking about the value. And once they got their corner, you say to yourself, okay, day 2, pick 57. Unless somebody unforeseen drops, like a Brian Branch, that was a guy I thought that they could have considered if he fell to 57, just because he's too good of a talent. He ended up going earlier. But outside of somebody like really dropping, I knew that they were going to go either wide receiver or center. Like those were the two spots. And again, I thought that the value at the center spot was going to fall off pretty significantly after you got out of the second round. Were there guys? Sure. You had Stromberg, who I think went in the third round. There was a couple of other centers, but I felt like JMS was really one of two centers, maybe three, that I thought were day one ready, that could come in and be a starter day one. And the Giants, if we're being honest with ourselves, as much as Joe Shane liked to downplay that going into the draft, don't have a true center on this football team. They just don't. He was going to play Ben Bredesen, but that's out of position. And that's the other value that you get out of this. Not only did you get your starting center, you think about the depth now in this offensive line, an offensive line that I thought was a joke before the draft. One pick changes all of that, because now you have Bredesen, Azudu, and Glowinski competing for two spots. So one of those guys is going to be a very quality backup. You wouldn't have had that had you not drafted JMS. So I love the pick. I think he projects to probably be at least a 5 to 6, hopefully longer than that, year starter for the New York Giants at a position where we have not had a player play back-to-back years since 2017, which is wild. Wow. So it's been a revolving door at that position.
Yeah, I love that stat, especially after last year we were clamoring for offensive line. Obviously, it was too high last year to go Tyler Linderbaum, who I absolutely love because of, his
I was a fan of Linderbaum highlights. Too. Yeah.
And so no, it's a great pick. And then we get to the third round. Something's going off. Something's beeping. Somebody's making pasta around here, I guess.
Oh, I don't even hear it.
with the third pick, we had Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee right here. This guy hanging out with Peyton Manning. I mean, everybody saw his tape last year against Alabama, 5 touchdowns in that game. And that was the moment I knew this kid was going to be something special. They didn't get the top 3 guys in the first round, but you saw this guy, the speed that he brings. He can go long. It's going to open up space for Saquon. I thought it was a perfect pick. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought we're going wide receiver there for sure. I like the kid out of Cincinnati, but it was only because I didn't think Hyatt was going to be there. You know, that was under the scenario that we're going to wait at 96 or wherever we were picking. And he was a very similar wide receiver to Hyatt, because I thought that's the type of wide receiver that we needed, was a burner, a guy that could, be a vertical threat, a guy that could pretty much be a long-term replacement for Darius Slayton, because I don't think he's long to be a Giant much longer. It's a 2-year deal with a 1-year out. And I think that's what Hyatt is kind of fits in that mold. I think he's going to be a better version of Darius Slayton long-term. And I thought that's the type of wide receiver we would look for. As soon as they traded up, I knew they were going wide receiver, and I looked at the board. I said, it's got to be Jalen Hyatt. And you think about the speed, not just from him, but throughout this offense now that the New York Giants suddenly have. Paris Campbell ran a 4.31. You think about Darius Slayton, he's a 4.4 guy. Obviously, Wan'Dell's got some speed to him. Saquon out of the backfield. Darren Waller. Like, the Giants have a lot of speed, and they have a lot of guys that could potentially present, mismatches for the opponent. Like, think about trying to guard all that speed at once. I think Campbell's a guy you can move around. Good luck guarding Darren Waller with a linebacker. So the Giants have a lot of explosiveness, even though it's not a finished product. I think we all realize they still need a legitimate number 1. But for what Joe Shane had to deal with this year, to come into the 2023 season with the weapons that we have, when you factor in all the other additions, adding Bobby Okereke, obviously the addition of Deonte Banks in the first round, the improved defensive line with a pickup of Ashawn Robinson and Nacho, I think it's as good of an offseason as you could have hoped for after those first 3 rounds.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I'm not so sold on Paris Campbell just because of his health. And I try to be really extremely realistic when it comes to Giants, when it comes to football. You're right. They don't have a number 1 right now. And I think a lot of their success on offense is going to pertain to their health. I mean, Wan'Dell, when he was on the field, he was absolutely a barn burner. And you're right. Shane when he came in, he had a C- roster at best. They made the playoffs with
You're being nice.
Yeah, exactly. So now that the fact that they have that, and then they got Waller, what you just mentioned, and I was going to ask next about, I absolutely love the move because, he's just making up for Gettleman's mistakes with Kadarius Toney there. So everything seems to be working out. And it's kind of weird because, wins and losses come on the field. But after the turmoil that we had gone through the past 5 years, it just seemed like a sinking hole. And my fantasy team was becoming number 1 in week 4 before the Giants, and Red Zone was coming on the big TV. But now it just seems to start fitting in the right place. So I absolutely love what they're doing. What would you give them as like a final grade, draft grade?
They picked the guys I wanted, as you just stated.
That's true. That is true.
And on top of that, I called Eric Gray in the 5th round. So they picked who I wanted. So it's very hard for me to say it's not an A. And I think, like, if you look at our first 3 picks, all 3 of those guys at one point in time were mocked to go to the Giants at 25. And you were able to get those 3 guys with your first 3 picks. So not only did you fill your 3 biggest areas of need, which was, I don't even think it was a debate going in. It was just a matter of order: corner, wide receiver, and center. You were able to do it without reaching. You got good value with all 3 picks. So, and on top of that, you could kind of factor in Darren Waller to this draft as well, because you gave up a 3rd round pick to get him. So the resources that they had, the way that they were able to use those resources to help this football team, I'm going to say an A. Like, I think it was a fantastic draft.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I just wanted to wrap a bow in it, or for the Giants side, because you did a lot of research on a lot of these guys. So about the other players in the NFL draft. Yeah. Was Bryce Young your favorite quarterback coming out of the draft?
I think Bryce Young, I don't think he has I think he's my number 1 quarterback. It was either him or Stroud. But the thing that I think separates Young from Stroud, he has Mahomes-like qualities. When I say that, I don't mean physical qualities. I mean mental qualities. When you watch Bryce Young play, his improv skills. Well, he was at Alabama when I'd be watching Alabama games. You know how like a play breaks down and you'll see Pat Mahomes just like flip it out of nowhere and you're like, what the hell? How do you even think of that? Yeah. Bryce Young does things like that. And that's what really stood out to me with him. That's kind of his separating factor with a guy like CJ Stroud. I don't think Bryce Young has that upper echelon, like Mahomes level talent, Josh Allen level talent. He's a tier below that, but I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I like him. Yeah, he would have been my one.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I huge Giants fan, huge NFL fan. I watch college football, but I kind of watch Alabama religiously. I'm a low-key fan because those are all the guys that we want coming out the next year. So I keep my eye on them. So I tend to agree with you. I think a lot of people are downplaying CJ Stroud just because he went to Ohio State.
I'm a fan of Stroud. I like Stroud.
I like him too. And I thought Anthony Richardson was a huge reach, but I'm also like gun shy about any of these risky picks now because I was a Malik Willis believer last year. So I had it like I had to step away and take it back. So I couldn't take my Anthony Richardson hype this year. All right. You might not like me for this one because I saw you tweet to stop talking about the Eagles, Giants fans. I saw it, but
you can do whatever you want. I just
I know. I guess it's a personality thing. I love it. But Jalen Carter is there at 9, and they take him. And they take him this year, and they also get Nolan Smith. They're basically Georgia North. I mean,
and they got the corner. They got Ringo in the 4th from Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. They're. And I did a TikTok on it. It's my first one that went like pretty viral about it. And all these people are calling me an Eagles fan, but I would just broke it down. Since they picked Jalen Reagor, they have went out and just absolutely killed it. They got Devonta. They got Jordan Davis, whose combine numbers were unbelievable.
AJ Brown.
The list goes on and on. Jalen Hurts becomes like the 3rd best quarterback in football. They lock him up long term. Howie Roseman goes from a laughingstock to an absolute genius. And basically right now, I think that there's no doubt in my mind that they're winning the NFC. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but I mean, if you look at the NFC, the only roster that's comparable even is the 49ers. And Sam Darnold might be their starting quarterback this year.
Yeah. I won't say no doubt because the NFL is unpredictable. Injuries happen. You don't know. But I agree going into the year, they're the best 53-man roster in the NFC. And I think you hit it on the head with the 49ers. I think the 49ers are right there with them, but the X factor is the quarterback. We don't know how good Jalen Hurts is if he was put in a different situation, but with the Eagles, he's fantastic. He was an MVP candidate. He brought him to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely the X factor. I don't think Sam Darnold's going to go toe-to-toe with Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I think the Eagles are clearly the favorite, but you never know. That's the beauty of the NFL. Like last year, I never thought the Giants would make the playoffs, let alone make the 2nd round and win a road playoff game. The year before, I never thought Cincinnati would be going to a Super Bowl. So you never know. But I agree with you that they're definitely the favorite. I mean, they don't have a weakness. They have the best offensive line in football. They probably have the best defensive line in football. They got 2 good corners. I mean, they got weapons all over. So and they added the running back from Detroit, who I think is an upgrade over Miles Sanders. So, they're going to be tough. But as a Giants fan, the way I look at it is, as a Giants fan, we can't control what they do. All we can do as Giants fans is hope that this team gets better. And if I felt we were in a Super Bowl window, I'd probably be a little bit more bummed out. But I feel like the Giants aren't there yet. So to me, I hate the Eagles. There's not a team in sports I hate more. I'm a huge Knicks fan. I'm a huge Mets fan. The Eagles are by far my most hated team. So I hate giving them any credit. But they're the best team. They're better than us. But the way I look at it is there was nothing we could have done this offseason to get as good as them. It was about starting to close the gap. And I think we're starting to do that. I think we're catching up with the Cowboys. I think we might even be caught up with the Cowboys. I really believe that. I think we're going to be right there with the Cowboys this year. But yeah, the Eagles are still the best team, and they had a damn good draft. I hate admitting it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and I mean, you could almost argue that the Giants are the 4th best team in the NFC. Like that's how. I mean, Brady left, Rodgers leaves. The AFC is absolutely loaded. I was arguing before a couple of days ago that the AFC is the best a conference has ever been in the history of the NFL. When you have Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Rodgers, Lamar, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. I mean, that's hilarious because any of those teams, if they're in the NFC, you're thinking, oh, we can compete for the
It's
NFC
true
champion.
because when you look at the NFC, and there's some good teams in the NFC, but if you're talking quarterbacks, and quarterbacks are what drives the sport. You look around the NFC, he's not there yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if by the end of next year, Daniel Jones is regarded as like the second or third best quarterback in the NFC because the NFC doesn't have great quarterbacks. They just don't. And I think Jones is going to be a lot better because of the familiarity, bringing back Dable year 2, the improved weapons. I'm so excited about Giants football. I can't wait. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. The AFC is loaded, and it's why and I actually don't hate the Jets. I'm fine with the Jets. And I get why Jets fans are excited, as they should be. Now, if I was a Jets fan, I'd be a little nervous because of what happened with Brett Favre, deja vu. But the reason why I don't think it's going to work is because of what you just said, how loaded the AFC is. Had the Jets been in the NFC conference, I'd be like, yeah, they could win a Super Bowl. But because of how loaded the AFC conference is, I don't think you could get them there. I think they're going to be a playoff team, which is a big improvement for them. They haven't made the playoffs in 12 years, but the AFC is just too stacked. The Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Trevor Lawrences who's coming on, right? So we'll see. But the AFC is definitely a step above the NFC.
Yeah, and I didn't want to bring any negativity. I just had to just the Eagles are so good and it's so frustrating because I'm obviously a huge Giants fan as well. And it's just so frustrating because there's nobody to compete with them. And we saw how they played against this game 1 last year. I mean, they were just leaps and bounds better, just more talented. And I don't like that head coach. He is Philly to the core.
Sirianni?
Oh, I hate him. I hate him, and I hate him and love him because he's like the guy. He's like the bad guy in Karate Kid. You don't want to like him. So he's a perfect villain.
If he was the Giants coach, we'd love him. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
But because he's the Eagles coach, I despise him. It's kind of like Rex Ryan with the Jets. Hated his guts. If he was the Giants coach, I probably would have loved him. Same thing with Sirianni.
For sure. All right, we do a segment on here called Fill in the Blank. We'll get back to Giants stuff. Fill in the blank. Daniel Jones will throw for blank touchdowns in 2023.
All right, I'm going to base these projections off of 17 games because that's the only way I could do these. So if he gets hurt, don't laugh at me, guys.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I'm basing this off a full season. 26. I think he's going to have a really good year. 26 touchdowns.
Great. Saquon Barkley will have blank touchdowns in 2023.
Combined rushing and receiving?
Combined.
13.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Yeah, I don't really have anything. I just wanted to ask these questions. I feel like you'd have, that's pretty spot on. Blank will have the most touchdown receptions for the Giants in 2023.
Ooh. Darren Waller.
That's the correct answer right there. Yeah. I like that answer a lot. I'm worried about just worried about every single wide receiver. I don't know why, but if he stays healthy, that guy is a freak athletically. He's just so good.
I could see him having upwards of 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think he could have a really good year for the Giants.
Yeah, you're right. And if Daniel Jones is throwing 27, that means that you said 27, right?
26. For me, it's between 25 to 30. That's where I'm at. I think he's gonna have a really good year. I do. So I'm at 26. I'll be on the more conservative side.
And I agree with you because they're going to spread it out. He's not somebody that keys on somebody. I mean, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys that have 5 touchdowns. So it makes a lot of sense. And then the Giants will win blank games in 2023.
Yeah, it's tough because their schedule is definitely more challenging this year if you look at it, right? Because we play the AFC East, which now the Jets look even better. Hoping we get the Jets at the beginning of the year because maybe Rodgers isn't used to the receivers quite yet. But the AFC East is really challenging. The NFC West has some ups and downs. I could see the Seahawks taking a step back, or they could remain really good. We'll see. The 49ers, they're still going to be really good regardless who the quarterback is. So this year's schedule is tougher. But at the same time, I thought last year's schedule after the season played out was harder than I thought it was going to be going in. Like the Lions turned out to be better. The Jaguars turned out to be better. The Seahawks turned out to be better. So you can't really judge a schedule until the season starts. At the end of the day, we got Brian Daboll as our head coach. I believe in Brian Daboll. I think he's going to get the most out of these players. And I think we're going to find a way to have a winning season. Now, I could see us finishing with a similar record to last year, but being a much better team because of the harder schedule. So I'm going to go 10. I'm between 9 and 10. I'm going to go with 10 wins for the Giants next year.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. I have to ask you, who besides the Giants, who had the best draft? Not the Giants.
The Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah. It always comes back to them.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, and this is for anybody out there that wants to make content, you put anything out on the Eagles right now, I never seen anything like it. Hundreds of people just arguing with each other about, they're like, you're a homer. I'm like, I'm a Giants fan. I was just calling it how I see it. So the Eagles are really tough. They
have an advantage too, because one, they had 2 first-round picks, but 2, their team is so good, they don't even have to focus on need. They just take the best player that's there and they say, gimme. They have like a complete roster. Where a team like the Giants, they still drafted really well, but they have to focus on specific area. They have to try to match the 2, need and best available player. Where the Eagles are like, we already have a complete team.
Yeah.
We're just going to take whoever we want.
Yeah, the Eagles already have 19 players that can start. It's crazy. They're unbelievable. And then the last thing I had, because I was looking through the draft, I don't know what the heck the Lions did.
Yeah,
they drafted a running. I like the kid out of Alabama,
Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah,
Gibbs. I liked him a lot. I was like thinking like maybe at 25, but at 12 they trade Swift. They draft a linebacker. And a defensive, who else did they get? They got.
I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah, they had their entire draft was baffling to me, and I'm glad they got rid of Swift. But Dan Campbell's living in the 90s. I don't know what the heck that guy's doing. And I actually, you know what? Dark horse NFC team to look out for because the NFC is so bad. I think the Lions are right there.
I agree.
Kind of scary.
When you said the top 4 earlier, I think you put an argument they're going to be second or third. I think they're a good team, and they play in a weak division now, especially after what happened with Rodgers in Green Bay. So I agree with you. I think they're going to be really good. I'm looking at their draft. I actually like a lot of the players they took. I just don't love the order in which they took them. But
what did they do?
Yeah, I like Jahmyr Gibbs, but I don't like him at 12.
Right.
I wouldn't have liked him at 25 for the Giants, but he kind of reminds me of Travis Etienne. Like, I feel like he's a very similar type of running back. Like, he's a really good route runner, really good pass catcher, explosive. Jack Campbell I love, but I don't love him at 18. And if there was a linebacker that I thought would go in the first round, it was him. He won the award for the best linebacker in college football this past year, and he had a surprising combine. Like, he did much better than people thought. So even though a lot of people thought mid-second round for him, I thought he could go in the first, but I didn't think at 18. So I thought that was a little bit high. But again, I like him. And then Sam Laporta was a pretty good pick, the tight end out of Iowa. Their best pick in terms of value is Brian Branch at 45. I thought he was a first-round talent at the safety spot. So I think that's a good pick. So I think they ended up with 4 good players, but I think they could have done better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just in terms of value, that was I wasn't really speaking on the players. I just value and positionally. I was like, what are they doing? And Dan Campbell and Jack Campbell are definitely related. That has to be a fact. I mean, the fact that they went running back and linebacker with 2 of the top 18 picks. I'm like, what are the Lions doing?
Yeah.
But Dan Campbell could make me get 7 tackles in the NFL.
I love him.
He's a savage. And then I guess we have a truth serum question. It's February. You take True Serum. Who's going to win the Super Bowl in 2023?
I'm not picking the Eagles. I think I'm going to go. It's hard to pick against Mahomes, isn't it? It's like so hard to pick against Mahomes. I can't go with Herbert. I can't. Like, he's a guy that I think is starting to ascend, but I think he's a bit overrated. I think people are putting the cart before the horse, and he choked away like a 28-point lead in the playoffs this past year against the Jaguars. So I can't do it there. I want to pick the Bills. They were, I kind of picked them last. Well, no, who was my Super Bowl champion? I don't even remember. I know I took the Bills to get there against the 49ers actually preseason, and people thought I was crazy because Trey Lance was the projected starting quarterback. I'm going to go Eagles out of the NFC to make it, but I can't pick them to win. All right. I'm going to throw out. I don't want to.
Well, there is truth. This is True Serum.
Yeah. I don't want to be chalk. I don't want to be chalk.
Fair.
Normally I'd go Chiefs, but I think a team that really improved this year, and they actually had a good draft too, in my opinion. And I think he's going to ball out this year. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Wow.
Versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
I love it. I love it. And they just got Zay Flowers, who's unbelievable.
I added Odell. Dude. They got some weapons. Lamar's now comfortable. I'll go with the Ravens. My brain's saying go with the Chiefs, but I'm like, that's boring. I can't do that. So I'll go. Right, I actually like the Ravens a lot.
Yeah, I didn't actually give you truth serum. So that, I mean, you kind of beat the test there. You kind of beat the test. No, and again, the AFC and the NFC could have completely different schedules. They could both play each other. Like, it's the difference between like the Premier League and the Championship League in terms of AFC versus NFC this year. And I'm glad we're in the NFC. I'll say it. I'm glad we're in the NFC because
there could legitimately, when you think about it, there could legitimately be 9 teams come out of the AFC for the Super Bowl. Whether it be the Ravens, whether it be what if Deshaun Watson suddenly starts clicking with the Browns? What if obviously you got the Bengals, obviously you got the Jaguars, they're ascending with Trevor Lawrence, you got the Chargers, you got Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like that conference is loaded. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers, don't want to count them out. The Bills, the Dolphins showed promise last year. Like the AFC is loaded.
Yeah, actually, one final question. What are your thoughts on Saquon Barkley? Is he going to get a long-term deal done? Do you want him to get a long-term deal done? And don't you think he'd look good in a Bills uniform?
He would look good in a Bills uniform. Here's my thing with Saquon Barkley. I think a lot of people, like if we were just playing Madden or if we were just playing fantasy football and you were like the GM of a team and emotions weren't a part of it and a locker room culture wasn't a part of it, it would be easy. You would say, tag him or trade him. But that's not the way it works in the NFL. Saquon Barkley is a very well-respected guy in that locker room. He's one of the leaders of this football team, and he's a damn good football player. I understand he plays running back. I understand he has an injury history. I think in the end, the Giants are going to do right by Saquon, but they're not going to do what Saquon wants. Like, they're not going to give him $60 million. People have asked me this question several times. I think the Giants are trying to do right by their players. I think they're trying to set a culture. So I do think in the end, they're not going to force him to play on the tag. I think essentially what Barkley's going to get is what's going to amount to 2 franchise tags in guaranteed money. So it's going to be like, instead of him getting 10.1, it'll be like 3 years, 39, 23 guaranteed. So they're going to say, we're going to give you your rather than tagging you twice, you're getting it up front. If you get hurt, you get both tags, but no guarantees after that. We could easily cut you after 2 years. I think it's going to be something like that. He gets his $12.5, $13 million a year on average, about 22 to 25 guaranteed, and an easy rip up after 2 years. That's what I think it's going to be. Everybody's happy. Nobody's upset in the locker room. Their leader's back. They feel like he was at least somewhat fairly compensated. And the Giants don't overcommit. Like, it doesn't kill their salary cap long term.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're basically the Swami. I've been called the Swami before, but back-to-back first-round picks.
You should have heard my Daniel Jones take. I wish you were listening to me then. I called the contract the week before it came out. I said $40 million a year, $160 million.
My God. Yeah. My God. I mean, well, yeah.
I'm not always right, but sometimes.
And shout out to Chris Califf, who basically tagged you in the thing. He's like, get this guy on. And then I started watching your stuff. I'm like, this guy's a genius. This guy is fun, entertaining, energetic, and he's right about everything. Knowledgeable, the Entertainah. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. And we'll get you back during the Giants season for sure.
Anytime, man. I had a lot of fun talking to you. Had a blast coming on. So thank you for having me, and good luck to your Yankees this year. We're both struggling right now. I'm a Met fan. I know. What are you guys in, like 4th right now, right?
Yeah, we just lost 15-2 today. It's been a tough day.
Oh my God.
It's been a tough day.
Wow.
It's been a tough day, but we have our Knicks. The Rangers game 7 will be done by the time this drops on Tuesday. So we'll see, but we have our Knicks, we have our Giants, we have hope. So yeah, appreciate it. And baseball, once July comes, we can.
It's a marathon.
Really it is. I just have to remind myself that every second of every single day. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and definitely talk to you soon.
Definitely, man. Thank you for having me on. Have a good one.